And
the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
the borough complied with 48-hour notice provision of sunshine law by giving written advance notice of at least 48 hours to 2 local newspapers and posting on the municipal website, stating the time, date, and location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting. Copies of this notice were posted in the borough hall and filed with the borough clerk. And open now to public comment before we launch into the budget, which is what this meeting is all about. So this is going to be the only public comment period for this public meeting. So if you have any comments? Seeing no comments, we can launch into our agenda. We have our auditors here today. Those are the 2 extra people on the table. Nancy one thing, Betty Jo, and our CFO as well. How would you like to? Do you want auditors to walk us through something? Do you want us to each help? I'm sure we each have points we want to discuss. How would you like to?
So we can discuss the budget as it is in its current form. It has a tax increase of $155 for local and $18 for library. And it supports the general operations of the borough, all negotiated contracts, salaries, and the costs that have increased, just like every resident has seen, electricity, or solid waste removal. And yeah, what else?
Mayor, would you like me to just give a little bit of an overview of what we had and I've done so far with the budget, you know, where you're at? And obviously, this is from the numbers provided to us by Betty Jo. We put it into the state format. I know she's worked with all the departments and all the commissioners to get to this point. But the budget that you have today is comes in with an increase in the local purpose tax of about $600,000. Depending on your tax rate is about $200,000. So your way around comes in at 3.2 cents is the increase as it stands now. Your budget, just as all municipalities, is required to stay within 2 state mandated caps. The first cap is a 3.5% spending cap. It's really tight on the spending cap, just about $27,000 below the spending cap, so that's real tight. We also have to stay in compliance with the 2% tax levy. We're well below that tax levy, a couple $1 million below that. So it's in compliance with both caps. With that increase in 2 cents, which is $32 a year on $100,000 worth of assessment. Your average assessment, I think, is $450,000, so it's about $145 in the average assessment. One last thing before we get into the guts of the budget. The spending is only decreasing but that is a little bit deceiving because we are paying down less of our ongoing anticipation note. In the 25 budget, we had $800,000 with that ongoing anticipation note. This budget only has a $200,000 with that note. So that $600,000 really means our operations are going up $800,000.
Well, I want to propose you there because I think we all been meeting going from the 24 to 25 budget. We had an $820,000 increase in buyers. So, you know, as of last year, we did not go up a single dollar in our budget. So, and what we did, the increase before any of the conversations that happened in the last 7 months. We went up $531,000 and fire went up $395,000. And you can bring that out of our budget. So like we're also paying attention to some of that. I don't know how $91 is ever going to come up to $820,000. So like last year, because like it's going up to 91, but
right now we're saying that.
Because it's double. Double. Think of it this way.
Yeah,
It's
after
double.
of last year, it's not even there.
It's 9 10. It's 9 10. 145 now. That's but on that one expense, it's double. You know, every other increase, like utilities, things like that, they were increased last year too.
Right,
This year now you're handling it's double because you have last year. And this
I
year.
understand that, but this year we're saying it would go up 145 and our revenue would also go up 500.
Well, because.
The
yeah.
tax rate, correct, so,
Because you're taking what he has. Your circle. And your.
no, but that's not what I'm talking about, I'm talking about. If you're talking about 3.27, and that means about $45 per month.
Right, but right.
For the 400.
For 400, right, so. I just want to kind of make it clear that to cover the $826,000 that were already in the 25 budget, that would be increased in the 2024 budget. Yes, that would have been more than $91 per household to cover $826,000. I'm sure there's other ways through like sewer and make other cuts, other things happen, but I'm just, since we made 0 increases last year, looking at this increase of 145, like in a vacuum, is just not, just to give the full picture. Because really, as you said, our costs went up this year by $311,000.
Our appropriation.
Appropriations went up, but we had an unfunded $826,000 from the year before that we covered out of surplus. It was unfunded in that it continually did not have sustainable planning.
We did use more surplus last year.
$3.1 million.
Yeah.
So we're playing catch up from not just this year, but last year. So there's a lot of things to add, like go through. In addition to, $680,000 in insurance. For all of our, that's across borough staff, $600,000 in health insurance increases. 680. Wow.
63.
And that's the better number.
And the unfortunate thing is, that's 27%. State health benefits, 35%. Say that, well, percent increase is slightly small, but it's going to be the health insurance market.
And difficult because the HIP have said, we just don't have it on paper, unfortunately, that we were gonna have for like a couple of years, but that unfortunately didn't happen. Which is really tough. So, sorry, can you explain that again? So if we were through this, we have the HIP health insurance. If we were through the state, those health insurance increases across the board for all of us, that would be 30 something.
Yeah.
But we are at 27%. That is significant.
It's like a third more.
The veterans.
Yeah.
That is from
Yeah.
$80,000.
And that's the biggest expenditure. So now it becomes where you want to go in the details of the numbers. The one other thing that we should talk about too, this big driver in this budget, you're using $1.3 million of property sale, which is a one-time.
Absolutely.
And that's the significant item on the revenue side. Is that one-time, which we have, just for the logistics of it, we can't adopt this budget until we have proceeds. You have a signed agreement for the sale.
Contract.
Not there yet, so, okay. So,
The agreement sales not signed?
Agreement still have to sign it.
It's yeah, no, close.
We already got the, yeah, the agreement is down.
so it will, I shouldn't say it will, it may delay the adoption of the budget if we're waiting for cash proceeds. We don't have an it's the same with the 1.3 million revenue that does not cash in the bank. So it might slow the adoption process up a little bit, But you know, we'll work out that, the logistics, once we get done with where you want this to be, when you want to introduce it, and, you know, then when the hearing would be, and possibly what it should be. That's really just mechanics, not really. I just want you to be aware of it. It's not
It may
necessary.
not be. If they're going back to the line, right?
Yeah.
And then, when their closing date is, I think is kind of up to them. Are they, I don't remember, are they obliged within so many days to get final and appealable orders? Typically, approvals, like that's typically how it's set up. I have to go look at the agreement to see how,
Yeah, it's been a while.
when there's a deadline for closing.
Um,
But it might not be till in the summer,
Yeah,
right? They're going in they're going in next month to his farm.
March to start.
So if they get everything approved there, they would approve, we could try to expedite the resolution to approve it, if they, you know, that's,
the,
we're running it later in summer.
yeah, I'll give you what we run up against. Right now, municipal budgets are required to be introduced by March 31st or your next regularly scheduled. So your April. And then adopted by April 30th or the next regular scheduled meeting. So, now, when there's extenuating circumstances like this, there's not a problem with delaying that adoption as far as the state goes. The problem becomes once we get into the summer, it delays your tax bills because if you don't have a certified budget, the county can't strike your tax rate, which means you can't, send August quarter tax bills. Now there is a process where you can set estimated bills, you know, which just, it adds to the paperwork that's setting the summer. So it would be nice if you could get this sale done and cash it in the bank prior to, June 30th, you know, would be, I mean, I'd love to see it May 31st, but if it goes beyond June 30th, then we're in a situation where we're looking at late tax bills, estimated tax bills. But, obviously, it's a significant number, it's a significant driver on your budget, so, you know, there are ways to make it work, but we just want to make sure that we got the cash before we feel worried about it. Were you planning on going line by line?
I wasn't planning on.
I don't. But I have one question, is the 222 payment to the schools that we talked about before, is that in this budget?
Yes.
It's online.
Okay, shoot, the last one you sent around. Okay, so, I made this pitch before, especially given how everything is precarious, I think what we talked about last time, makes no sense to be paying money over the schools. All those discussions last year kind of ended with schools raising $4.5 million in taxes and new money. That was the reason why the borough kept it flat. And knowing that we're gonna have to make this up, figure this out like in the following years, but we weren't gonna hit people with double. And now as we're trying to fix that and we're spending, we're not paying down the debt the way we've always paid down the debt.
But we're still paying down the debt to some degree, just not as much as the year. That's
Not as much as we did for the 15 years before. Okay, we always have been expensive.
Yeah, a lot of it.
I tell you what, let me finish. Is that?
A lot of it. There's a lot of buildings that are expensive.
Yeah, and
We have to
we've
get
been,
this down.
and we've been very, well, no, we've been very aggressive in paying that down on the short term. On the short term that we held out because it was the most financially advantageous for the borough. Okay? We're the max of spending, where the tax rate we're doing is not an inconsequential one, 145 on the average property.
Wait, hold on, sorry, I just wanted. So from my understanding, looking at the debt service. And payment on bond control seems to be like in the ballpark. Maybe in 21, we paid down 2.6, interest on bonds, that is lower, but on par with what we did in 25, it only is
Payment on note principal.
Payment on notes, right? I'm looking at bond,
Yeah.
payment,
No,
bond
that's
principal, bond and note principal.
And if there's a year when we didn't pay it on it, it's because we didn't have the note principal to pay it.
Okay.
Okay, they're tied into when we did those buildings, you're right, it's also, well, these are all buildings, the other side is the water stuff, these are the buildings. And we would do part of it in permanent, part of it in short term. In order to reduce the impact on taxpayers. And what we did was on the short term, we would pay that down aggressively. So if there was a 2 million, if the building was 14 million, we would put permanent 12. Go to short-term notes on 2 and say to ourselves, we're paying the 2 off in the next 4 years. And the long term goes on for 20, the long term. Blending that in so that we help reduce that overall cost, okay? Here, what we're doing is we're reducing by 2/3, 3/4, the amount we're paying on that note principal. We're still paying our long-term debt, if we have to. We don't have any options on it. So we're putting, this budget just puts us, maybe you guys should talk about it. To me, it puts us, it puts us at more risk for next year. Because of things like if something happens with the Ocean Park, they don't close on that, like there's just some risk in it. But even if that happens, we've knocked our surplus down. Our appropriations and our spending are at the max of what we can do. We're raising revenue in off of that. We're not likely to drop a lot of surplus down. It's kind of like we're not making enough money
I
to
don't
drop
disagree.
into our
I
savings.
agree with you, but the thing is that, and I see the wisdom of how you've done it years before, but what's not accounted for in the 25 budget that was scanned that like we walked into was a $900,000 increase for police and fire that we did not increase taxes for, and then an almost $700,000 increase in insurance. So I am all ears to what solutions you have.
Oh,
But-
well, the one solution,
so,
we don't give $222,000 to an entity
Can we?
that taxed us $4.5 million.
Great, when is the, when
That's one.
is the Skytrack paying us back $200,000 we've given them this year?
We're gonna work on that,
Great,
absolutely.
there's another,
We're
like,
working on it, but we're into that relationship and paying that. That's a lot different than the school calling you a week ago and saying, send me a check for $250,000.
that's.
Can we go back to the school line for a second, because I want to make sure that I fully understand the history of this. So if we look at this line item, which is 235 in the budget, $222,500 has been, my understanding, I talked to Betty Jo about this the other day, just to make sure my head was around it. That money, it's not not a check to the school. My understanding is so people pay their taxes to the borough. 47% goes to the schools. And my understanding is that there was an agreement, I don't know if it was written or not, but after the pilot at Parkview, that basically that 47%, we would subtract 222,000. Is that correct?
No, that's not, we did check, I guess originally we did a deduction, we never did a deduction, they got a check.
They got their cents came.
Right.
Some of it came from our budget, some of it came from outside our budget. But they got whatever they billed us for is what they were.
Right, and the 222, I know the last couple of years, it's been checked, it's been a
Yeah,
separate
I
check.
mean, okay then.
They get paid with a check for the 222.
I'm
I
not
think they're
disagreeing.
separate checks.
I'm not disagreeing that the money goes to the school. My question is it part of the 47% that goes? Yes or no? Betty Jo?
No.
Well, it was, they deducted it, right?
Yeah.
That's the deal, like.
They've never gone, it's never been in addition to, it's been part of the 47%. It is,
No, listen, no, okay, they get the school, they get their full tax, say it's $100, right, school budget's $100. That goes into the tax bills, that money comes in, that $100 when it comes in of their budget, okay? Betty Jo, that gets transferred over to, a check gets transferred over to. The 222 that was being paid out of the Parkview, okay, was paid separate. Let me finish, what we went through last year was, when they received that 222, their bookkeeping was, they would deduct it from their tax line. Okay, so the 222 that they got in the year prior, when they put together their tax levy form,
That's part of what I went over here. Tax levy form, and on the tax levy form, their taxes would be $100. And then below it, it said less, 222,500. And so their new tax levy was this, okay?
Was
So
98.
that factored into what they collected from everyone, because, so they collected 222 less from people because we gave them a check for 222.
Right, so they did not get over the 100 in this scenario.
Correct.
That's what I was trying
It
to
didn't
make sure
get
I
more than
understood.
that, right? So if we don't pay them the 222, they get the full 100. Their budget goes into what the levy is, and they collect all that. Like
Understood.
last year, they didn't get it,
Correct, for the
okay?
first
But
5
they
years.
raised taxes like $4 but they didn't get it last year. So the levy that they adopt for this year will not deduct that amount.
Understood.
That's it.
So the inception of this agreement
Spark.
was
Like
partially
this. Yes,
96. So the schools have been receiving that 222,500 since 1996.
correct.
And what are the implications of not giving $222,000 to the schools? Teachers fired?
The school will get 100% of their budget.
I understand what you're saying. But
Here's,
look,
maybe this is.
They get any less money? Michael, you got, they don't.
No.
The implication of not giving it to them is that the taxpayer pays the 222. So in this case, if the borough gives them the 222, the taxpayer is paying the borough and you're giving it to the school. If you don't, the school raises it and the taxpayer pays it on the school share.
And so it's coming from people.
I understand.
But
Yeah,
what it does is in our budget,
It's just whether it's on the final tax bill, is it a piece of the borough tax or is it a piece of the school?
and so it doesn't lay off any teachers, it doesn't change anything for them, they get all the money they were gonna get. Okay, what it does is it just puts us another 220 back on run into, yeah, that's all it does.
I think we should put a pin in that because honestly, $220,000 is like the least, it is not like nothing, but I'm trying to understand when you all, because like, I'm already thinking the next budget, right? And that's what you're thinking, of course.
Yes,
So my question is, when the 25 budget was adopted, what was, and no one could have known that the HIP would have been such an utter failure, and I know we got a third off, but like, I think that's very different from people that laptop, one of them, area, we understanding it for a couple of years, and like out the window, it's incredibly unfortunate and infuriating. But, so you couldn't have known about the $600,000 increase that was coming for insurance, but we did know about the police and fire increase. So what, and you already talked about the rec bond, so we knew that more debt was coming, and you already talked about that. So what was the plan? What were you going to do? Like, forget $200,000. What? Like, there's a lot of like, this is irresponsible, like,
No, the plan-
what
the
was
plan-
the plan?
Well, one of the things I would have done is I would have paced things slow.
Okay, what does that
Would
mean?
have not, we're adding 5 cops this year. Okay, I would have paced it slower. The
Was that-
agreement we believed we had with fire, okay, about EMS was we were gonna add a firefighter EMT a year for 3 years.
Stop.
And we can all argue,
Wait, can we go back
I
to
know.
cops real quick?
driven by budget
Stop.
challenge.
Stop, let's
No,
stop.
I'm not gonna stop, I'm gonna answer the issues you raised.
But I don't, so I have, the issue is that
We used a lot of surplus, yeah.
$119,000 is what we increased for police officers. The 25 budget had 3.281 million. It went up to 3.4. So we're talking, you're saying you would have paused it, but that would have only saved us $119,000 because the 25 budget had 3.281 for salary and wages for police officers.
Yeah, but what was spent was 2.8. There's a difference between what you budget and plan to put in and what you actually spent. So
Because
see the
we
two
don't have-
numbers,
Because we were
because they're not
understaffed.
there. Right.
But we have
exactly.
an ordinance that has how many we're supposed to have, so we're gonna be fighting with the fire union and the police union because we're not gonna give them the officers that it says in our ordinances we're supposed to.
You-
We've never had them because we didn't pay them enough, and like, we couldn't keep them staffed. And now we can, and we
The
didn't have that.
no, you say that now we can't. No, we can because you said we're gonna do it. Okay, and I understand, the ordinance says you have to be at that number, so boom, we're gonna do it, okay? But now, you're sitting here looking at this, at the budget and saying, oh my gosh, look at all the money that we're spending on it, how can it be? Well, the reason is because the ordinance may say that, the budget is what guides us, okay? And if you would let me finish, okay? What we would do, because when there's a gap like that of $500,000 between what's budgeted in police salaries and what was spent, that 500 falls to surplus at the end of the year. When Betty Jo talked to us last time we were together about the 2 firemen, right? Well, she has built into this, right, two full-time firemen for the year, right?
We're talking about it half a year because.
You put it in for half, but when we were here last time, the 2 full times that were in was for an entire year. Okay, well, we're not mid-year yet, but by the time this gets done, we'll be mid-year. So now you have half of that salary is not gonna get spent this year. So if we didn't hire those people, the full year would fall to surplus. If we were to hire them mid-year, half of that number would fall to surplus. So it is, yes, what we would have done is slowed the pace. And I know people, listen, department heads all over will tell you they don't have enough. And I'm not disagreeing with them, okay? But enough is also gotta be guided on what can we pay for out of the budget? What can we afford to do? And the reason we cut it, knowing you were gonna have to do something this year, because people were facing the largest, even without us, the largest tax increase in all we could find in the history of the borough. So we tried to take that off, knowing we'd have to do adjustments going forward. That's not how this has worked. That's what I get it, says 5, you have to have 5, so you added 5, cool, okay, well. Now we gotta pay for it.
To me, it didn't come from the ordinance, it came from the budget request and multiple discussions with the police department. It wasn't reading the ordinance, I just wanted.
I'm not even arguing, I'm only saying it because that's who's mentioned, but I'm not arguing it, but if that's what you're doing. Then, yeah, it puts a lot of additional pressures on, and you just need to, and I don't think we should be paying $222 out when it's not municipal services. Let them cover it on their budget, on their tax levy, which they can and they will, okay? And pulling it out of here is not saving anybody anything, and it puts the borough at a little bit more of a greater risk on its budget going forward. That's all.
It does not seem clear to me, having sat through the initial meeting with Chief Carey, that he was under any of that understanding. I wasn't part of the police and fire negotiation. I don't know what was said there. It seems to have been a gigantic confusion based on a lot of emails between Betty Jo and Cass and both chiefs. So walking into a lot of this that was predetermined, and then I'm trusting department heads and BAs and CFOs to say what was negotiated. I thought, we don't even have our fire.
Talk to me about it.
We don't even have our fire contract, right? Or our police contract, right? So I did not know that until about 3 weeks ago. So besides the 222.5, Jim, what other?
Oh, it's
other
just precarious. Hanging on a sale is really tough. Like, it's just precarious.
I don't
I don't have any magic. I just think that on this budget, at 222, and going forward, you've gotta be really careful about where we're committing money to, okay? Because it doubly puts us in a hole going forward. We're already $1.4 million short next year. That's what this means.
1.3.
Okay.
One thing that was good, that's how the budget. That's coming from it, it's not 1.3.
Because of the deposit, because there was a deposit. Okay, so we're 1.3 now.
I have a question. It was really helpful for me, a conversation I had with Betty Jo earlier this week. So I said, help me understand what's the difference between the 25 and the 26. So just talking about kind of big picture, what are the big differences? $600,000 for health insurance. The 222.5, which was not paid to the schools last year. In addition, we increased Borough Hall salaries and we took up the cost of living. Is that 4%?
4% cost of living
Cost of
adjustment.
living. And my understanding is there had in the past been very little merit raises across Borough Hall staff. So we took up everyone so that there was no one under, was it $40,000? So no one full-time was making less than $40,000. So we took up some salaries as merit raises. And so really, to me, the difference is, just to make sure that my head is wrapped around this, the difference is the 222, $600,000 in health insurance and people. Is that right? Because we're paying for police, fire, and merit raises.
Let me give you one more new expense.
Yeah.
The solid waste collection.
Yeah, the $100,000
Yeah,
review.
so that's a new expense that wasn't in the budget previously. Everything else that you just,
That's part of it. Okay.
everything else you just cited ticks right off on everything I have.
So if we're asking people to pay $145 more, it is for the health insurance and the people who work for this town. Is that accurate?
That is the most significant piece, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other piece is also that it's the police and fire salaries. That's a big jump.
For sure, right, the people,
It's
police, fire.
personnel costs,
Yes,
It's
the
personnel.
salaries and the benefits.
And the benefits that for all of us that have other jobs, this is the case at my company as well, right? Like the health insurance is bonkers. Who knows what will happen? But what people will be paying, their taxes is for people, police, fire, for all employees.
that's school, but
And for insurance, premiums also went up for our staff, correct?
Yes, they contribute to a portion.
And what they're contributing also went up, correct? So even though the board one, I'm not sure how much went by, one, I just know went up as
When
well.
the health insurance went up by 27%, the employees' contributions also went up.
Yes.
So a lot of the 4% COLA really just came back into trying to somehow. To me, they're taking semi-insane.
I think that's actually accurate, Jim, when you said we're always paying more, no, because your taxes go 47% goes to the school, 30-something goes to the county. We're paying for debt service, we're paying for police uniforms, so, but the increase is for people.
well, for the borough budget,
Yeah,
it typically goes, oh yeah, bills, we do roads and stuff like that. We don't have anything in here to do a new road for
correct,
the next year,
We don't have-
anywhere.
You're
Should have no
generally,
infrastructure.
exactly.
you're generally able to hold those other expenses if you have them.
We
Let's
have
hold
three
them
things.
similar to previous years. And you do have, some unexpended balances in the budget, so if you think you need $25,000 for something, you don't put 25 in the budget, you put 26.
Exactly.
And then, throughout, you get the cumulative effect of those savings. But the increases are absolutely personnel.
And there are some increases, so just to go to this line about streets and roads, we are paying for roads. Last year, the actual was 337, the proposed for 2026 is 367.
What do you
I
think?
think that's a salary, I don't think that's actually,
Oh, that's not,
that would come from our capital,
sorry, that's
right? That comes from
Yeah.
capital.
Either capital improvement.
Yeah,
I think it's its own
Okay.
it's on sheet.
And I don't want to talk about capital improvement fund, but just before we're done.
No, but I think that's just helpful for the layperson, like, if we're asking for this increase, what's it for?
Also, like, looking at it, we've had 2 new buildings in the last 5 years, so we can't. And we've aggressively paid down the debt for those buildings, but we have done, those are gigantic infrastructure projects, and we cannot be investing perpetually in and we have the water, and we still have a gigantic infrastructure project in the water.
Separate budget.
Separate budget, but like saying that we're not investing in infrastructure is, I think, a little misleading because we have more so than in the previous 15 years. We built 2 buildings in 5 years.
We've
So like
built-
now you have different focuses, right?
Public safety.
We've replaced buildings, we just, listen, driving up Patton Avenue, just now from the office, like. Boom, 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 like it's doing road, we got no money in here.
Are our electricity costs up? I know I already like to talk about electricity in New Jersey. How much are those up?
25,000 in this year's budget.
Which is not too bad.
No, that's actually lower than.
Is that enough? Say, I feel like my house just went up like. No, this, with the anticipation of the 647, and we said, let's have to pay for that.
We also went up a bit in salaries and wages for the pool and other expenses for, I guess, placement of something or another.
So the salary and wage increase in the pool is actually just a reclassification from recreation. I've had a few people be in charge of recreation that really should have been to the pool. So I moved that.
Nobody's getting a raise, just
Oh.
different bodies.
Okay, speaking of recreation. Jim, I know this is your wheelhouse, but our rec fees are like laughably small, which is great, but I don't think they changed in a long time. I think we should increase our rec fees just so they're even, because they're kind of like all over the place. And like, I was talking to Betty Jo, like a bunch of our sports, like we lose money. We lose money on our summer camp. We're paying, like, people are paying $4 an hour for daycare in the second playground camp. I think you could increase, like, just make it 65 across the board for all the activities, for, you know, basketball, wrestling, soccer. Basketball's 55, wrestling's 50.
You can raise them. I mean, listen, it's always been, the borough's always underwritten those programs. And the whole idea is, and listen, anybody that
So
can't
it's-
pay, we've all
Right,
got.
absolutely.
But there's the pool, that's another spot, okay, so that's,
Yeah, the pool year, yeah.
yeah, well, given what the water plant's gonna cost, better triple that number.
That pool is still a great deal.
Right, that's
a great deal.
deal. That's what I'm saying about, I think
Raise them, no, raise them.
if we rose
Go
it
ahead,
to
yeah.
65 and then, you know, some playground camp, they each would have.
That was your idea.
Yes, it was, absolutely was. And it would still be the cheapest summer camp
How
and
much
rec.
is the summer camp now?
Sure,
Currently
it's
it's $60 a week and it's gonna go up to 75.
$75.
Yeah, so you'd still be paying less than $6 an hour, which is the cheapest daycare. I mean, I just threw some numbers together because we're talking about
No, raise it.
dollars and cents, like, I think that's just
It's
something that's just kind of keep up with the times. And again, anyone who's getting word. We pretty much wait for that. But I think that could be a small line item. At least just, we should be losing a huge amount of money on.
The other, one other thing on my notes, the one of the other risk factors going on next year is taxes. That's an impact we had this year. And most of them are kind of resolved, kind of beyond most of that stuff, except for one, is there one big one?
There's one big one.
Yeah, one big, one, which is part. Okay, yeah, that changes, lot changes. So, just hold up, listen, there's not a lot to be done for it, but be conscious every nickel, like it's gonna matter.
On that, I have a question on the. Just to make sure I'm reading this correctly, Betty Jo. For the library bathroom, we have it in our like general worksheet because that's the engineering cost.
Yes.
And then we also have it in our capital because that's the actual. That's construction, correct? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, but just in your notes here, it said the move to outside cap, for that like 50, for like that 56,000.
We talked a little bit about years and moved a whole bunch of the other things out.
In the state budget document, those fees, when, Betty Jo first gave us the budget, we were over the cap, but there were certain items we were allowed to put out. One of it was the, trash services for multi-occupancy apartments. That was able to get moved out. And that engineering was originally in with your general engineering. It's not related. It gets it out of the center.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
That's the funky relationship between the tax levy cap and the appropriations cap.
Right.
You can raise taxes $3 million more dollars,
But you can only.
you just can't spend it, except on certain things.
Right. Likewise, our trash contract, is there like a percentage in there that can only go by a certain amount, or how does that work?
It's locked in for the 5 year.
Okay, we would have to bid for that.
Okay,
just based on how much, the number goes up based on how much trash.
Okay, that was my, because I thought it went up like 40 grand, but like that's because of,
That's like
the average
contractually. Well, it's not our disposal, it's not our tipping. Are you talking about the contract with?
I've never seen that. I'm saying the solid waste contractual, including yard waste, and that line item went up $40,000.
So that means that 26 contractually, that's what's outlined in the contract.
Okay, so there's an increase, there's
It's a lot.
contractually.
Yep,
It's a lot.
You get a contract that says,
Okay.
okay, what it is, you're looking for
Okay, got it. Locked. So you're always, so even when you settle a contract, it's already building in.
Well, that one's bid. When you see the bids, you're the one to the lowest, not the bid, so that was.
Okay. And each one, I guess. This is the learning curve, right? That it's not a set number, it's a set number with set increases for each year. So we're always, like next year, we're gonna see another increase in yard waste regardless.
Right,
Okay.
the contract describes
Okay.
what the amount going up each year.
Got it.
3% increase, 3% increase.
Okay.
Right. And that's in per ton, so it depends on how much you have.
So that's for tipping.
So it could be variable.
That's
not a haul.
Not the collection, right.
Yeah, that number's no more available, period.
It's working
Right,
out
it's
based on the rate.
It's the minimum, the thing, or they know.
Right.
Carissa, so, there are directors, so she had to take more money.
Your library is really funded, but some high, like our offices in Ocean City, and it's one of our clients. Their rate of values have gone up so much in the last 5 years. The library has more money than they know what to do with, so they have to levy it. Well, there's ways, they're allowed to make contributions back to the city. But your library is not overfunded.
Yeah.
That formula works for some, but not for all places with high rate of increases. It just, it reduces, you should see the type of money that they try to figure out how to get back.
And Betty Jo, I think you're on top of the 145, but that means that we need to have our own library here and here. Obviously not part of the conversation.
Right, because we can't, we missed the boat on that one, unfortunately, hadn't had. We wouldn't, if we would have included our library. Yeah, there would have, the time for that. Unfortunately, slipped by. All right.
I would like to talk about that.
Yeah.
You've there's an appropriation for $525,000 in the capital improvement fund. The capital improvement fund money is used for down payment on bond ordinances. You can also fully fund bond ordinances. $525,000 in capital improvement fund yields $10.5 million of bond ordinances. Do we anticipate doing another $10.5 million of bond ordinances this year?
There's been no discussion of doing it, we talked about it.
I don't, and this is a separate budget from water, so we're not talking about.
Separate.
Okay, just making sure.
That's separate from water, sewer, and your general capital fund.
But like, we're still talking 25.
It's not me adding it to the current.
Oh, I got you.
But it is-
Okay.
So as currently, your general capital fund already has over $8,000 in that capital improvement fund. I would, unless you've got big projects that you plan on doing this year, the 525 might not be, that might be too big of a bigger number than you need. And, one of the things we could consider, and I'll talk about that service a little bit now too, is rather than put $525,000 into the capital reserve fund. I'm sorry, capital improvement fund, we could use it towards debt service. Now, your notes.
Can I ask you-
Yeah, so, yeah, but we could still budget an additional amount to reserve it to next year.
Michael, can I ask you, add the 525 on the 800?
Yeah.
Gets us a million four, right? But then we've got projects that total $1.4 million.
Yeah, so do you want to discuss this project, maybe?
I mean, it's like
project,
kinda-
so-
That's what I was gonna ask, do you have, so you do,
Yeah, we got projects.
I didn't see the details on 1.4, okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, that's, the beginning of it was you can use that money for, well, if you've got $1.4 million worth of projects, do you feel that you need to pay for them all in cash? Let me tell you what I'm driving at here. Right now, at December 31st, you have a $2 million bond estimation. It's rolling next week, with an additional $7 million, that is going towards the unfunded, portion of the unfunded recreation, ordinance from last year. There will still be $8 million left of debt issue.
Which we're taking a short-term note for 7 mil of the 15 million rec authorization.
Yeah. Now,
News to me.
yeah, the current debt, and then you have bonded debt. So the bonded debt is the permanently financed debt where you're locked into the payment schedule of about just under 17 million. In 2029, which is closer than you think, you will have paid off your 2016, you have two 2016 bond issues that the debt service is about $1.4 million a year on those two items. In 2029, you'll have paid those off, meaning in 2030, you'll have $1.4 million per year of new room for debt service to keep it level going forward. And the debt that you currently have can be structured in a way to take advantage of increasing those principal payments in 2030, closer than you realize, and still keeping level debt service. So I don't think that you are paying less on the bond anticipation notice than you did last year, but the debt situation in the general, in the current fund is not out of control. It's actually manageable. That's why I wanted to know, are you doing another $10 million? You're doing $1.4 million. Well, for $1.4 million, you don't need $500,000 to add the payment. You need $7 million. So that could be, if that's what you want to do. And what I can do is build an entire schedule that shows you your principal and interest that you're locked into for maturity, then the temporary notes that we have and how we can move towards permanently financing them when this opening comes up in 2030, that keeps you level debt and then allows some room also for new things as they come. I don't, like I said, the $1.4 million, I don't think that you necessarily need to fund that all in cash. I mean, you probably should take advantage of the fact that you can, and maybe you decide you want to, 5% is the minimum down payment. But you might decide, okay, we want to do 20% in cash and cut into that $525,000. Even if you're adding, additional, say, turns out to be $1.2 million of debt, it still works in to what you have currently. That would be smooth going forward. The only caveat being there, what other things do you want to do capital-wise in the next 5 years? That would affect how we structure this going forward to debt service.
So a couple different things. One is the whole rec ordinance and everything was all set up as a redevelopment project. Okay, so the whole purpose was to avoid deposit. Okay, all right. So the 5%, 10%, like it should be able to be structured without the lots.
But that project's already in ordinance. I'm talking about stuff going forward.
Okay,
For down payment money, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you already have that
new cap.
$15 million is
So-
already, you're
so you're-
authorized to borrow and spend that
Right, but
away.
what you just went through, we're taking 7 mil out in a short term, what are we borrowing that? What are we taking, what are we borrowing the 7
The
mil?
sale is on March 3rd.
Oh,
It's gonna be around 3%.
so we're borrowing 7 million on top of our, rolling over our 2 million.
Mhm.
And that should be done, that's being done, like it's a redevelopment fund, that's not without any kind of funds. All right,
And once again,
so this you're talking about,
Is
you're not
future
talking
stuff.
about taking that 7 and slotting it, like the whole point behind it
Well-
was to slot that into other debt going away.
now I'm taking that 7
And what
million,
was that
you
department
need to repay it somehow over either, if you keep it in temporary notes have to be paid off in 10 years.
I know, but
If
there's
they're-
not, we don't have,
Right.
no
That
more
is
investing paying debt.
So that would mean that ultimately we're going to permanently finance it over a longer period. And we have the whole in
That's
2030.
Right.
So we would do a bond sale in 2029 to permanently fund the 7 plus the 8. You still have the 8 that you haven't even issued any debt yet.
I know, my
So it's
point
gonna be-
is simply, don't go off finding new projects to fill in that permanent
No,
debt.
no.
The idea was to slip that 7.
What I'm
into
telling you,
that hole.
yeah, here's what I'm saying,
Okay.
right now, I have it's, right now, there's a schedule that works very easily to keep you flat with no increase.
Right.
Now, if in the next 5 years you need to do more than what you're already obligated to, then that's a different story. Then we figure out how much more do we need? Or do I give you the schedule that says, we can fit this in comfortably, everything that you're totally obligated to, and pay it off in, let's just say 17 years, whatever the schedule tells me. And it leaves room for an additional amount of capital work every year of whatever the numbers punch out to be. And I can give it to you that way, then you can use that, you can say, okay, this is our budget for capital for the next 5 years. If we spend X per year on capital, we can roll it in with everything we're already currently obligated to and have no increase to the taxpayer. And I can give you what that number would be. Then you have a target that says, okay, our capital wish list for the next 5 years is this. Now we prioritize because our money is this, and where do you find that in 6 months?
Well, we're still talking about this capital balance, I don't think I looked as closely at the $775,000 for parking lot. I know some of this says it's
400,
like,
so we did not get that grant.
we did not get that grant.
No, we did not.
Well, let me rephrase.
Are you talking about just EV, adding EV together with that?
They're both for 627 Haddon together is 775.
Right, so construction costs are 475. Right, like even when we did the tiny lot behind, with safety building, that was like 6 figures, so this is like everything. And we're working with the developer. We did not get the grant from the EV charging, which is 300,000. So we did however get a grant for level 2 charger, which is like 10% of the price. There could be a consideration to just do a level 2 charger on which level line. Developer has 3 EV chargers, they want to keep them private, I'd like to convince them to make them public, they don't have any obligation to do that. But we could reduce, since we didn't get the grant, the 300, just doing level 2 chargers, that's.
I don't know the difference between chargers.
So a level, a fast charger is like 20 minutes, you can like plug it, like a gas station, right? A level 2 charger, you're sitting there for a few hours.
And what are these?
There's pressure stuff,
And what do we have in the longer years?
2. Because there's residents, you're gonna pass their car, or you're gonna shop. I'm gonna dinner, you've got 3 to 4 hours.
Are we, again, new to the game, are we obligated to give that parking lot a facelift right now? Like it becomes ours because we're municipality, it has to have fresh concrete.
I would recommend, as we get engineers, do it hand in hand with.
Because of all.
Yeah,
It's the best time to do it because it's gonna be built in conjunction.
right, there's efficiencies.
And it also, I think, you'll net more, you can get the plan, but you're gonna net more space. But there's a drive lane, right, and reconfiguring it all will
But they're gonna have. I guess I'm asking, is there a way to do the engineering plan? Right, we're talking about like, hard to find places to look this. Yeah, could we still pay for the engineering, still fund whatever our portion of it would be for the shared drive aisle? The efficiencies that we would gain from doing it with the developer of the other half. But like,
It's not
They're
the
gonna
other
wanna
half,
do
it's
their
no,
construction, they're
right now,
gonna wanna do their construction, and we're gonna wanna do our construction at the same time. Forget the planning costs.
ours. Remember, you're opening this up as a public parking.
Right, good,
Okay,
yeah.
so, and it's really not safe for that. So you're gonna, people coming in and parking, going to dinner, walking through potholes and over curbing and like, and it's just not it's
I would
not
say
a
this
good
is
idea.
probably the time to do
It's
this,
a-
I mean, that's for you guys, but they're gonna have to develop, they're gonna have to lot. It's best to do them together, but they're not gonna wait till 27.
Right,
We're still talking about 627 happening. We were just saying that we're not,
Yes.
we were just saying that we're not sure what time of year this is happening. We're hoping that it's fast so that we can have the 1.3. But if we're saying that there is a delay and you're saying push it to 27, take it off at this, is that what you're suggesting?
or just see if there's a way to, I mean, especially with Jim just had like the tape of this, that like, or cut it in half and fund whatever actually happens in 2026. And
I would recommend funding it fully, so we're prepared to move in conjunction with the other.
You don't usually do it in half, you do it half, it means you're gonna stop construction.
Now, what we can do
It's
is
just
drop,
gonna sit.
right, we can drop a large portion of the 300,000 if you want to go fast charging too.
Yeah.
That's
That,
also, is there,
that's what.
and can't we just apply for, put it in a level 2 and then apply for a grant next year for level 1 and keep, or like you have to do that before
No,
it's
look,
late?
there's a lot of it, if you go with fast charging, the infrastructure required for fast charging, much bigger ticket, right? You get the change, you have to do all kinds of,
Right.
level 2 is much lighter, so you would not put in a level 2 and then retroactively try to do it. That would be.
Like,
Additional, yeah, a ton more work, right? You're doing it upside down.
You're double paying.
That's right. Like you can plan for the fast charger and plan for those costs, or just go. with it. But again, the developer wants to put in 3 fast chargers on their portion, which there's a requirement, because there's state requirements now.
Right.
Um,
Are there state requirements for us?
100%, we can put in parking, there's requirements. You get ready,
You're
you
gonna have
go
nine.
on,
We can do level,
but we can, I
You're gonna have
hope,
9 units, just bad.
right, I would like to convince them to make them public, because it'd be silly for us to have 5 fast chargers.
And they can make a fun of it. A whole lot, they can make fun of it.
So what we're working through is the requirements for the charging. I wanna make sure we satisfy it.
right,
But listen, even if you're gonna knock the 300, not do the fast chargers,
And I
I don't
would
know that I
stop,
would take any money
Right,
out
I
of
would
all.
leave 50, at least for, sorry. I don't wanna say knock 300 out entirely, because there are
right.
costs
That's
associated
with the two anyways.
but much smaller.
Because whatever doesn't get spent on this, the project, it gets delayed, it doesn't matter. And God forbid, the doors in the community center don't get done.
We just got.
They're
that.
done.
Oh, I'm done, all right, well, never mind. So, but then it just falls to circles,
Right, but
like it
Jim,
just helps next
you
year.
can't do that, we're talking about 775 versus the doors to community center were 8,000.
I'm just giving it an example,
I understand, but like,
Let it
that's
fall.
for,
that's all.
But I think your point is just as we're looking to your question, what are we doing this year and next year? We're spending $500,000 on a parking lot. At least.
Yeah,
I will say the cost will go up, but.
yes,
Because
It's just
more
stormwater low,
Right.
stormwater.
The capital improvement fund that's in the budget goes into a separate fund that's like a savings account. So even if you don't spend it, it's there for next year.
Right.
I know you're trying to see where you can lessen this year's budget, and I completely understand that, but we started out with 850,000. If we put 525 in, and then we do all of these projects, we're gonna have $200. So in next year's budget, you're not gonna have anything over there. So even if you don't do those projects, you have something to get started with next year, which would help next year's budget too. There's so much, I appreciate that.
It's not good news if we don't do the project, but if we don't and the money rolls over, it's like, okay, there's a question.
Because this whole budget is just a plan. It's how we think that's gonna happen.
Exactly.
Anything else you want, another sheet down?
No, there wasn't another sheet that I want to go through, but just, you know, as just a quick reminder on the effect of this budget on future budgets. Our health insurance is going up $683,000.
Yeah.
And we're only raising the tax levy $600,000, so we're not even meeting that increase. And I'm just warning you about cutting into that 3.2 cent increase too much, because you need, just for continuing operations, you need, you know.
And we're
some-
nowhere near, and we have ability that can be higher. No, the 145, not
Oh.
the surplus.
Oh, the one with the levy.
Yeah, the levy.
The
We're gonna pay
levy.
there.
And there's plenty of.
That's, you can only spend it on things that are outside the caps.
Right, no, I'm not talking about increasing spending, I'm just saying, to your point, that like 145, like gets like tripping over the finish line.
Right.
And it's still like, I close my eyes and it's like the 91 from last year. And then our average increase has been between what, like 70 and 100 over the last 10 years? Right, 50 and 100, so let's call it 75. So 75 plus 90 is 165. And we're at 145. Should we at the very least do 165? And like, yes, we did what we had to last year, but like we also need to be responsible looking forward. And like, it's not fun. No one likes increasing taxes, but like, this is just making up for last year, which is really just like a kick the can down the road a year to help you in your. It's like even 165 now $40 a quarter. So it's not.
I wouldn't increase what you're charging people. I would not put things in that you don't have to pay, like 222. I'd get to
Do you have
that.
any recommendation besides the 222 for the schools that you would like to get a budget? Out of curiosity.
Well, nothing that can be changed now. I would have slowed the pace of other stuff. I would have slowed the pace of other stuff,
Okay,
but there's nothing to be done now. It's spent, it's
so
committed.
the
So
only
it's done.
disagreement that you have is the 222 at this point.
Well,
Where we are now, I know what you're saying.
for this budget today, like, yeah, the one change we can make is don't spend the 222, let it fall, keep it in where you got it, let it fall to surplus, give yourself a fighting chance going into next year. I wouldn't spend what you did, but no, you did it. Two votes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just because of the timing of the interview introduction on the budget and the 1.2. Do we have an alternative if we don't want to include that as mandated revenue? Are you going to just take it from surplus? Are you going to increase the taxes more? Do we have a secondary plan?
It's possible they might.
So if we were, so like, what, if the 1.3 comes out, we don't anticipate, okay, can we just raise taxes 1.3? Okay,
If you have a bank
and that would be,
levy cap of
that would be an additional, right, so that, and that's outside the cap, doesn't affect our appropriations, like, doesn't it get funky in what we could use that for?
No, you're not, because you're replacing one revenue, the $1.3 million property sale, with the
Increasing the
no
spending,
spending exchange.
it's just not revenue, so it just
So
raise
it's
taxes by
Yeah,
that.
because remember, you're golden on the tax levy side,
So-
so you could raise another $2.8 million and still be under the cap. Spending side is where we're.
So that would be roughly, if it's 145 now, it would be triple that, right? It would be adding another 320, is that right? 290, 390, 420, on top would be like 550, 600, be close to 600, close to 600. So that's nuclear,
Right.
that's nuclear.
Agreed.
So I guess
Building that we've been holding on to
the, you know.
for 2 years. Holding on to the building? So like, I'm just saying, that was a decision that was made, and that was money that from our surplus that we used to buy.
Listen, yeah,
was
that's
just
not the
saying.
problem. The problem, you just went over what the issue is. The issue is that the spending increased with police and fire salaries last year. If you don't do that, If you don't do that, there's not, I mean, no. The difference is, we had big jumps on the uniform contracts. Which we went over, you know, everybody, I think, was kind of aware of it. And then we didn't raise any revenues
Right.
because of all the school stuff.
And then insurance.
Yeah, insurance too, but the big tickets were,
I mean,
don't bring in any revenue and greatly increase our expenditures.
Right, $683,000 of that. Could not have been.
Last year and this year, yeah, it's doubled up. I got, no, I got a call, I have a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, you guys. You're welcome.
Um,
Oh, yeah.